You remember? Mama used to say, come in when the street lights come on. That was back when we ain't had no cell phones. If we was at the courts, the playground, or the park, we best be inside before it got dark. And it's not your mama, but you've been invited. The light is ignited with wonderful words from powerful poets. The street light is on. What's up, family? You can get your tickets to Streetlight Poetry wherever you are listening or watching this podcast. You can find the link in the description. It's going down. Tickets are only $10. Streetlight Poetry is happening September the 1st. Get your ticket because the Streetlight is on. Welcome back to another episode of To the Men After Me podcast. I'm your host, Neeko Williams. This is the letter to the boys that will become men in the generations that follow. Y'all, we got a special treat today. I have my biological father in the room on the podcast with us today. Dad, say hello.
Hello.
Just a little bit about my dad is he is currently the pastor of Kendrick's Chapel Church in Franklin, North Carolina. How long you been pastoring?
5+.
5+. That flock, right?
Yes.
How long have you been in ministry?
Since 2002.
2002. Long time. And you've been married for how long?
30 years.
30 years. So.
30 years and 15 days.
You just celebrated your anniversary in Hawaii, yes?
We did celebrate, and we did go to Hawaii on this 30th anniversary.
Man, what a beautiful thing, man. So, you know, the whole theme of the podcast is To the Men After Me. I'm trying to share lessons that I've learned. I really, truly believe that at every stage that you're in, there's always something to share, something to teach. And so that's why I do the podcast. I don't pretend to have answers, but I do think that at every stage, at every age, somebody is watching you and you have something
Amen.
to share. And I don't think that you have to have gray hair or age to be able to teach something that you've learned. And so what I wanted to do is I want to take some time to give you opportunity to share some lessons that you learned. Here's the question I have for you today, Dad, is what lesson took you too long to learn?
I would say the lesson that took me too long to learn is several. But one that probably sticks out is the fact that life is a journey. I remember being at A&T and
Aggie Pride.
And seeing all the great men and you know, reading about and watching Dr. King and of course at A&T we had the opportunity of being at school when Jesse Jackson was running for president and a lot of great men. McNair, the astronaut, was coming to campus and grabbing things from campus and taking up his space with him. And we actually were sitting in the cafeteria and we saw when the explosion occurred. And so you get to be in relationship with all these what we may have called very influential men. And so instantaneously, that's who I want to be. I want to make a difference in the world. I want to contribute to the world. And so, but the lesson that I had to learn that life is a journey. And we are at different places on the journey. I'm at a place on my journey. You're on a place in your journey. I shouldn't expect you to be where I am on my journey, and you shouldn't expect me to be where you are. And some people reach point A or B or C or D earlier or later than other people, and it's okay. And so I've learned to be patient with myself as well as being persistent to continue on the journey. And I have to also realize the things I know now at 55, I didn't know at 35. And other people are on the journey. And I can't expect them to know what I know at 55 if they're on their journey at 35. And so sometimes we can tend to think, well, duh, shouldn't you know this? Everybody knows this. But the truth of the matter is, no, I didn't know that. It took me a while to get to where I am. And hopefully 20 years from now, I'm going to be saying the exact same thing what I know now is so much different than what I knew then.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
So give people space.
Yeah.
On their journey.
That's good.
And also give yourself space.
Yeah.
On the journey,
Let me ask you, why do you think it took you so long to learn that lesson?
I just hadn't got to that place on my journey. Every step along the journey causes you to now reflect and I don't know why. Maybe my expectations were so high. Maybe I'd seen so much and wanted so much from me and others. So again, I really can't say why that was the case. Of course, maybe if I would have had a mentor or had listened more carefully, who knows? All I know is it just didn't happen for me at that time, and that's the lesson I'm trying to communicate.
That's good. That's good. So you mentioned being at the greatest HBCU in like all the land. You were there from what?
85 to 89.
85 to 89. And you said that you were around so many great and influential men, and you wanted to just immediately be. Is the word? You wanted to be great. You wanted to have influence. Why do you think you wanted to have influence? What do you think is the gap in between kind of where somebody is and influence, and how did they get there?
One of the reasons why I wanted to be that person of influence is because of all the influential people in my life, and I valued what they gave me, and I just wanted to give back to others. I mean, so many. I really love the church I grew up in Mitchell Baptist Church in Lewisburg, North Carolina, and how so many people there sowed into me and believed in me and encouraged me. Even when I had so little to offer, they just kept saying, I'm gonna give you this space, I'm gonna give you this opportunity. And even though I'm sure it was poor and pitiful, they continued to say you can and you will. And so I'm grateful for them. I'm grateful for my family, my aunts, particularly my Aunt Dorothy, who lived beside me. She was a great influence in my life, who always told me I could, and not only told me, but took me places and gave me opportunity. And so of course my mom and dad were always there to push. So you had all of these people pouring into me. Then you get to campus, North Carolina A&T, and you get professors like Dr. Manuel, who I saw cry in class because we weren't getting it, and she went home that night and couldn't sleep until she figured out a way to come back and teach us how to get this calculus 2. Man, you're just not the same anymore. When people value you.
Yeah.
And so you just got all these people around you. Dr. Forey was another who told us in my strength of materials class, we would have a quiz every single day because he didn't like the score we made on our test. And so he was determined we would not leave that campus not knowing what we're supposed to know. So every day we had a quiz, not because he wanted nothing but the best out of us. So I said all to say, so you have this longing, desire, and then you come to realize you don't have much to offer. And you don't really know that you don't have much to offer because you know all that you know. And so as I go through the journey, I learned that what I do have to offer, and I think this might have came from Stephen Covey, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, is that just influence in the level of influence that you have. So I don't have to be a Dr. King because I got a nephew that I can pour into. Then as God increases my
influence,
my area of influence,
okay,
just keep on influence. So I didn't get caught up now in being a Dr. King who influenced all of America. I just got engaged into influencing the area of the space of the people that God had given me. That was some good stuff, man. Thank God for all those people, man.
Something else you mentioned kind of earlier on was you saying like the things that you know now, you kind of want people to know. You just assume that because you know them, they should know them. Well, now that you know that, you're aware of that, how do you combat that when you are maybe in conflict or you're just around people who don't know what you know?
Yeah.
How do you combat that?
I just let them be where they are. That's all. Just accept them right where they are. Realize that, hey man, they're on a journey, and I just let them accept. And I don't have to be the one who teaches them. I realize that that's not my goal. If they ask, I'm there to assist. But my goal is just to live my life in a way that gives God glory, and people are learning from me just living my life. I don't have to be the guru and feel like I have to share this great level of knowledge and experience now that God has allowed me to have, and now I am to impart that upon others. No, I'm just to live my life.
Yeah.
And let them see my life, and if they want to ask questions, they want to dig deeper, I'm available. And so I think the main thing is just, and some people are hungry. And will continue to ask questions, and you keep feeding them. But some people, they just not at that place yet.
You know, I experienced that real time growing up in your house. I don't know at what point in your parenting where you made this realization, but you allowed us to make decisions and you allowed us to make mistakes. I think there was a very pronounced shift when all of us had gone to college. We had sat down in the Golden Corral or something. I don't remember. And you sat us down and you said, hey, our relationship is changing. I'm changing. Not a parental unit anymore. I'm more of an advisor. And it was a shift of like, you're essentially saying, I'm going to let y'all make some decisions. You can come to me if you have questions or whatever, but I'm not in a position of like trying to make you do anything anymore, you know? Do you remember that conversation?
I do.
It was it's very odd because I didn't see it coming. But as you started speaking it, I was like, oh, I feel like you've been doing that for a minute now. And I've benefited from that. In my own relationships, in my job as a pastor now. I've come to realize, like, and I was sharing this with Mr. William in the last episode. My primary job as a pastor is to help people hear from God, not to tell them what to do. I can make a suggestion.
Amen.
But what I can't do is I can't be mad at you because you didn't make the decision that I thought you should make. And I can't, and not just as a pastor, but as a person, you know, I can't quote unquote punish you. You know what I mean? Like, people will withhold more wisdom or withhold time or whatever. Anyway, I've experienced that from your fathering, and I appreciate that.
To God be the glory. God be the glory.
What would you say to the young man or the listener who needs to who recognizes they're on a journey? They are on a journey, but they are not satisfied with where they are right now. You know, what would you say to that person?
Keep seeking. Keep seeking. Keep persisting. One thing that is true is we have to trust the process. Even when you don't see results, when God gives you instructions, trust it. Keep seeking life and life more abundantly. Keep seeking to be all that God has called you to be. Keep persisting and trust the process. It's like brushing your teeth. You might not see the results today. Keep brushing.
Keep on brushing.
And if you keep on brushing, after a while, you'll see some results. Now, it's equally as true. If you don't brush today, you might not see the ill effects. But if you keep on not brushing, it'll show up. So we can't sometimes see day-to-day growth. Trust the process. So for the young person that want to be already where you going to get to, remember, it's a process. It takes time. Just keep at it. Don't give up. Keep going, one day, one step. Even when you don't see the growth, trust God's plan. And one thing is for sure. If you keep putting one foot in front of the other, you're going to get closer to the goal. Whether it's a giant step or a baby step, just keep moving.
You know, as I'm thinking and pondering on this idea of life being a journey, you know, you need a destination. I think it is so much more important to have people to lead you. You know what I mean? Like, especially if you don't know where you're going on this journey. You know, I'm the worst at directions. I don't know about you, Dad. I remember sometimes, but I'm the worst at directions. Maybe I get it from you. Candace is essentially my human GPS, but I'm very reliant on the GPS. Very reliant, and it just makes me think about the importance of having people in your life that can help you get to where you're wanting to go. I'm personally an independent person, and that's the pride in me. Like I feel like I can get there myself. I don't need no help. I don't. But just I had a realization in high school that there are people out there that know more than me. You know, so it's important to listen to advisors, to sit down
Ooh.
and and to hear from other people and to process with other people as you're on that journey. So that's good. That's good.
Absolutely, absolutely. Keep learning, and keep learning from everybody. Everybody. Always learn, because you can learn from anybody. Have a mentor, and have someone you're mentoring. People will learn from you, and you will learn from others. And if we keep the idea that only God has all the answers, then we'll continue to work together to reach places in life. One thing, though, you said that is very interesting is we want to have a goal, an end goal in mind, where you're on a journey, but we got to have a destination. And a lot of people don't know what the destination is. And so it's our job to help people discover, what their destination is for themselves.
Yeah.
Not for us to put a destination in them, but to help them to realize that, if you, who was that said, if you don't know where you're going, you'll probably get there. So you got to have some destination. You got to have some end goals, and then you have to have some steps along the way. So that's very important for anyone on a journey to know what the end goal is. Now, you don't have to get dismayed if you're going on a journey and you find out that your end goal changes. That's okay. If you're going to New York and you realize now you want to go to Chicago, once you have changed your destination, then your journey changes. But if you don't know where you're going anywhere. So it's okay to realize that your journeys can change. Now, you don't want to be flippant and change your journey every day, but you want to come to a conclusion as to where you're going, and feel okay if you realize that you were on the wrong. You had the wrong destination.
Wow, that's
you want
good.
to change.
That's good. You've experienced this. I know this because I grew up in your house. Would you talk about a little bit of your journey changing?
Very interesting question. My journey changing. I tend to think that God knew the kind of person I was, and He didn't show me the end game, because I probably wouldn't have wanted to go there, to be honestly speaking. Being a pastor now, I never ever thought about being a pastor. I just wasn't in me. Even though maybe other people saw it in me. Even as a high school student, I spoke at churches, as the speaker for Youth Day in high school. Still no thought about being a pastor or a preacher, And going to engineering school, I enjoyed it and enjoyed industrial engineering. But the people passion in me caused me to work with the young people at church. And when I found myself on my engineering job having to rescue myself from planning activities with youth, for church, I realized maybe this isn't my final destination, because it was hard. I just naturally just sitting at my desk, writing my paper, my engineering, dissertation about what I just studied. My mind would just drift away. And so I realized I got to do something a little different. That moved me not to preaching, but to being a school teacher, where I work with children all along. Now, what I'm saying is my destination was changing, but God knew the final destination.
Yeah.
I didn't, because He probably knew that wasn't where my heart was.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was it. But then as I became a teacher, then I realized, hey, maybe I really want to teach the Word of God. And I went to divinity school, not even as a minister. Just wanted to learn more about the Bible.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, just wanted to learn more about the Bible, because it was just intriguing. I want to learn more. And then during the course of that time, people at divinity school were ministers. And so I didn't want to be a minister because they were ministers. But during the course of that time, I said, or I felt God saying, this is what I want you to do, Eddie. Duh. Now, I have been working with our youth. I have been doing youth moments with our children at church, and which I thoroughly enjoyed.
Just for clarity, the youth moments was just a time in the service where he would get up. Our Pastor Smith would say, Pastor Eddie, are you ready? Well, he didn't say Pastor because you weren't a pastor at that time. He said, Mr. Eddie, are you ready?
Brother Eddie, are you
Brother
ready?
Eddie?
That's what he was saying.
And then get all the children in the congregation to come, and they would stand in the aisle, and he would preach a short little message, for the children.
Still never knew. That's what God wanted me to do.
Somebody was like, when are you going to realize? When are you going to realize?
That just wasn't it just never came across my mind. I never thought about it. I just never thought that that's what I'm supposed to do. And one day, as I was speaking, someone had asked me to speak again. And as I was praying before I went on stage, I felt the presence of the Lord say, this is what I want you to do.
Wow.
And I was like, what? But you're doing it? But this is what I want you to do. And I said, okay. So I thought that was very interesting. So as you talk about the changing of destinations, my destination changed because I just didn't know what the final destination was. And we have to tend to leave some of that in God's hands.
Can you talk about journeys changing, destinations changing? We had a big move when I was growing up. It's a big move. We moved from the Charlotte area to the Raleigh-Durham area. Will you talk about that journey and that destination changing?
Well, I will. I thoroughly enjoyed our stay in Shelby. That's where we were living. And I had no plans of moving. And I, again, sensed in my spirit, hopefully I was right, God saying, Eddie, you were putting in applications, for pastorship and work. I was a teacher. I had stopped teaching to finish divinity school. You're putting in applications where you want to. I don't want you to do that. Just fill out applications. Whatever comes available, you fill it out and let me choose your spot.
Wow.
And that's what I sensed in my spirit. So I did that. And interesting enough, the first church that I pastored was in Warren County, and I lived in Shelby, and they met every second and fourth Sunday. And so they had a open for a pastorship, and I laughed when I sent them my resume. It was a joke. I lived in Shelby. I'm going to give them my resume knowing that I can't move to Warren County at a church that had less than 60 members that met second and fourth Sunday. It just wasn't going to happen. But God said, you fill out any applications that I bring to you and let me handle the rest. Lo and behold, y'all, that's the church I became pastor first semester. And of course I did, when I was home visiting my mom, I learned that the local school had a need for a math teacher. So I just put in my application there. So lo and behold, both of those became available to me, and we moved. So even though it was an uprooting of our family, I really strongly felt that this was the Lord's doing because of, I just couldn't believe it. I laughed. I laughed. Like, why would I feel like, why would I send them my resume? This is a joke. But just trying to, you know, just do what God says do, not even expecting God to move on it.
Yeah.
So when you all were crying and fighting and saying, why are we moving? And it was a tough terror from our church family in which we were. Pastor James L. Smith was the senior pastor, and it was a lovely place to be the youth pastor of. I guess that's the first pastorate. I mean, youth pastor. I mean, senior pastor was in Warren County. But you know, everything was there. Was lovely. The place we lived, everything was lovely, and here we're moving. But I didn't have any hesitation at all because I felt whether I was right or wrong. I felt this was a God move based on how could I submit a resume there, you know? And why would I move down to, and I think I actually did not actually get the acceptance of the pastorate until we actually had moved because of the teaching job. But it was very, very shortly after. They were almost simultaneously occurring. So it was very, very interesting. But,
you know, when a lot of times when you talk to Christians and they have these, Christians will talk about God tells them to do something big and scary. You know, it's like, I don't want to move. I don't want to do this thing. Can you talk about just balancing that, like acknowledging this is something hard I don't want to do, but also when God tells you to move, how it's actually like, what is the best thing, you know, for us?
No, I can't talk about that. I think everybody's experience is a little bit different. You know, you hear people saying, "Hey, the Lord was telling me to do something, and I fought against it, and I didn't believe it." That's not my experience, and that doesn't negate anybody else's experience. My thing is to be clear on hearing what you believe God says do, and if God says do it, and if I'm clear on that, I'm good. It wasn't hard. That's why I said for me to move wasn't hard. It wasn't challenging. I didn't understand it. Didn't know what the results were going to be, but it wasn't hard. And I think when I sense that what I believe God is saying to do, it relieves the stress. It's now I can sleep at night.
Something some of you always used to say was, the work is hearing from God. Once you hear from God, you can move confidently.
Absolutely. That's the work. I still stick on that. The work is hearing from God. Once you know and you feel, you know, sometimes we miss it, but once you feel that God has spoken, the hard work is done. Because now God's going, it's his assignment, it's his work, it's his battle. He will provide everything that's needed.
Speaking of provision, can you just share this story? This is one of my favorite stories.
Well, you share it.
No, you gotta tell it from your perspective. You made a decision. We're moving. Now we're looking for houses. You've gone to the areas several times. Couldn't find anything. Pick up the story when we go for our all of us are looking around for houses.
Yeah, me and Michelle had came to to the area. We knew we were moving. We got the appointment, of teaching early in the summer, so we knew we were moving, and so we came down and looked for houses, and we just couldn't find anything that was feasible or that we liked or that we thought would work. And I think this was our third time, and this time the children were with us, and it was getting close to dark, and I'm about to cry. I got my family in the car, and I'm about to cry because I'm thinking, man, we're coming to this local area. I said, only thing I know to do is go live with my mama and my daddy with 3 kids. That won't work. But I'm about to cry. And as we were leaving out of Youngsville in Franklin County, because we wanted to live in Franklin County, as we were leaving, going home, I see on the corner of my eye a rental company. It's on the left, and I make this quick left, and I turn in there. They're almost closed. It's closing time, and I just say, "Hey, we're looking for a place to live. Do you have anything?" And at the time we were actually looking to rent because you can't make a decision on buying a house that quick. And she said, "Well, I do have this one place." She said, "You can go down there and take a look at it." And that's all she said. You can just ride by and see it. She didn't give me a key. She didn't give me the owner's name or anything of that nature. And, we were just desperate. And, I got her number and I said, yeah, we're going to go by. I knew if it was any way close to being decent, we were going to take it. But when we pull up, it's a little getting close to, dusk. There's a car sitting at the end of the driveway by the house. So I drive in very, very slowly because she told me the house was empty. They were looking for her. And so we get to the car and someone is in it. So we get out slowly. Lo and behold, it's the owners of the house. And the owners of the house have been waiting for someone else to come to look at the house, to rent the house. They never show up. They're there waiting on us. We take a look. It didn't take but a minute. Yes, I would love to have this place. And the owner says in his deep voice, well, if you want it, you can get it. I said, what do I have to do? And that moment, we exchanged, the information. I don't know if we wrote a check right then or not. I think I had to go back to the rental company to leave a check, but it was a done deal. And God provided that place. What I would call the last moment. The owners were sitting there waiting for us. Now somebody else told them to go there, but it was God. And he provided a place for us to be, and it worked out for our family. That was awesome. Because you know what? God is what? He is Jehovah Jireh.
Amen.
Yes, he is.
Praise God.
Work that.
Well, guys, thank y'all so much for taking a listen to this episode with my father. It is always a pleasure for me to hear from my father. There's only a couple people in this world. If they say something, I'm gonna think about it maybe 5 minutes longer than anything else. And my dad is one of those. So, thank you, Dad, for participating in the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you for having a heart for young men. And I just want to encourage young men to grab a hold of an older man, whether it's your father or grandfather, uncle, cousin, church member, neighbor. We don't know all the answers, and just listening to someone who has been there, done that, can save us a lot of headache.
That's right.
So I just want to encourage and thank you for these kinds of opportunities. And I thank God for the men who went before me, who taught me so much.
That's good.
All right, my brother, it was a pleasure.
Thank you. This is To the Men After Me, the letter to the boys that will become men in the generations that follow. We'll see y'all in the next episode. Peace.